Welcome to End of the Road Reviews, the YouTube series where I show you cars at their grave. Basically, I'm giving cars with an unfortunate demise one final shine in the spotlight. First up, we have this 2007 BMW 335i E90. 2007 was the first year the 335i was introduced, which was pretty big because it featured the all-new at the time N54 twin-turbo inline six. This was the first twin-turbo inline six that BMW has used since the 1980s in the E23 7 series. I always thought pre-LCI E90s looked a little bit like an economy car, but it still looks nice nonetheless. The 335i had 300 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque, and you could either have a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic transmission. This one right here is rear-wheel drive, but you could also get X-Drive all-wheel drive. Up next, we have this 2002 Kia Sportage. Now, the first generation Kia Sportage really isn't all that interesting of a car, but it does have some noteworthy stuff. It was one of the world's first cars to have knee airbags. It also had a live rear axle, and it was rear-wheel drive. Some models even had four-wheel drive with a 2-speed transfer case, which is pretty weird to think about in a Kia Sportage. In retrospect, the Mazda 5 is a pretty weird vehicle to be offered here in the United States. In the United States, when people buy a minivan, they want a big car to haul around the whole family. So why did Mazda offer this weird small minivan that would be more popular in Europe and other markets? While we may never find out the answer, I'll just tell you some fun facts about it. The Mazda 5 was a true 3-row minivan, and it probably sat 6 people comfortably. It sat on the same architecture as like the Mazda 3 at the time, so you could, in theory, put the 2.3 turbo from a Mazda Speed 3 in this thing, which is pretty cool. And a 5-speed manual was optional. Right here, we have one of my personal favorite Mercedes E-Classes, the W211. The W211 E-Class was introduced in late 2002 for the 2003 model year, and it ran all the way until like 2009, 2010. It had a huge leap in technology compared to its predecessor, the W210, and had features such as air suspension, heated and cooled seats, and a bunch of other amenities here and there. This particular E-Class is pretty high equipped as it has massaging seats, heated and cooled seats, and push to start. Look what I found here, a Land Rover Discovery 2. The Land Rover Discovery 2 is not the best off-roader. It's not the most reliable, and it's not the fastest. One thing you cannot deny is, it is the coolest. In the United States, you could only get one engine, which is the 4-liter V8. Later it was the 4.6, but for the most part, just gas V8s. Overseas, you could get diesels and manuals, but here, automatic V8, or you hit the road. Some Disco 2s, like this one, have 2 sunroofs. Subaru, a favorite up north, and a Colt down south. The car behind me is a Subaru Outback. This one features the somewhat uncommon 3-liter flat 6. The right exhaust setup, it could probably sound like a Porsche, I'm not too sure. Usually when you got the 6-cylinder, that meant you had all other options, such as heated seats and leather seats. Overall though, Outbacks are pretty cool, but judging the fact that this one doesn't have any accident damage, it probably has like a blown transmission or blown head gasket or something. What a shame. Here is a 2004 Volvo XC90. The Volvo XC90 is often an overlooked car, and it was actually Volvo's first SUV. In typical Volvo fashion, it's extremely safe, very sensible, and features a ton of engine choices. This one has the base 2.5-liter turbo 5-cylinder, making 208 horsepower. You could also get a transverse inline 6, the 3.2, and the best of all, you can get a 4.4-liter Yamaha-derived V8, making 325 horsepower. Some of these have third-row seating, this one does not. Back in the mid-2000s, my parents were looking at buying one of these, but I think it was out of their price range, so we didn't. Another cool design detail is the fact that this thing has a split folding tailgate like a BMW X5. Look what I found here, a 1988 Nissan Maxima, a Maxima from the good days. Maximas like this 1988 model year one right here are the ones that people reminisce about. Unlike the Camry and the Accord from the time, these had a V6 optional. Later on, the Accord and the Camry added that in order to be competitive, and they were pretty sporty. These also had good technology for the time in a car, such as power windows, cruise control, and a good stereo system. This right here is your average ultimately you see going down I-95. Here we have a BMW E46 3 Series, and I am happy to report it does pass the business check. I love wagons, but I don't love seeing them here in the junkyard. This right here is a Saab 9.5 wagon. The Saab 9.5 competed with the Volvo V70 wagon, which were both Swedish wagons going back and back. Funny enough, to an extent, both were owned by American companies. Ford had a stake in Volvo, and GM had a way bigger stake in Saab. There were a wide variety of powertrains you can get in the Saab 9.5. This one has a V6 in it. Saab's had a lot of quirks and features, such as night panel mode, the key ignition slot being down by the center console, and an airline-style dome light. The fire department had way too much fun with this MPV. The Nissan 350Z Z33, an icon of the takeover community. When the Nissan 350Z debuted in like 2003, it had a pretty good engine. 3.5-liter VQ35DE making somewhere of 270 horsepower, which compared to a 2-valve Mustang at the time with only 240, 250 horsepower, it's pretty damn good. If you got a manual transmission equipped car, it could do 0 to 60 in like 5.5 seconds. The Z is a cheap, rear-wheel drive, good-looking car with good handling. Now, unfortunately, as the years go on, lots of people discover that, including takeover kids, and these things end up wrapped around poles, trees, and literally everything. So now these have gone back up in value. Also, quick side note, this one is a 2007 model year, so it has the VQ35HR, which is the high revving version of the VQ. The Volkswagen New Beetle is one of those cars I feel like gets misunderstood way too often. The Volkswagen New Beetle debuted in like 1997, and it was based on the all-new at the time Mark IV Volkswagen Golf and Jetta. Out of all the retro cars that came out at the time, this one I think looked one of the best. It is definitely unmistakably a Beetle. And these things came with a wide variety of engines, in case you didn't know. In the United States, the base was a 2-liter 4-cylinder NA. You could also get a 1.8 turbo from the GTI. You could get a 5-cylinder in later ones, and also a 1.9 TDI diesel. 1.8Ts like this one had a retractable rear wing. The BMW E53 X5, which is the first generation BMW X5, is a pretty significant vehicle. Like the XC90 I mentioned earlier, the X5 was BMW's first SUV. The E53 X5 is one of those BMWs I predict will go up in value in the next several years, I'd say. First off, it's BMW's first SUV, and a lot of BMWs from this era are going up in value. Second off, a lot of them, like this one, are in the junkyard, and that means there's going to be a lot less of them on the road in the next few years. Of course, this is subjective, but I think these things have aged beautifully. The base engine was a 3-liter inline-6 like this one, the M54, or you could also step up to the M62 4.4-liter V8. On the 6-cylinder, you had a choice of either a 5 or 6-speed manual or a 5-speed automatic. And that's all I have time for today. It's starting to rain, and I think this video has gotten long enough, but make sure to subscribe and like and comment for more videos. And have a good day.